What's going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams with The Distance. Here to talk about some news that's kind of a little around the boxing public today. This one is about Kostya Tszyzu possible comeback. I'm just going to give my opinions on that. But anyway, as it's on eastsideboxing.com, I believe Kostya Tszyzu made some statements of a possible comeback and possibly coming back, in a big fight. I guess if the money was right, against possibly a top opponent. And as we all know, Kostya Tszyzu's been out of the sport since like June of 2005 after he fought Ricky Hatton, and there's the corner. I guess he stayed on his stool like in the 11th round, and that was the end of his career. And sad enough for a lot of us fans, especially big fans of Kostya Tszyzu like I am, it was one of those things that was hard to see him go out the way that he did. Because with a great champion like Kostya Tszyzu, first ever 140 pounder to unify the championships at that weight class, it's very hard to see. Because, and on top of that, he being from Australia, he actually ventured out into the United States and fought quite often. So I think he had a few fights in the United States, and really when it felt like to me, after he beat Zab Judah and unified that third championship, which was like the IBF light welterweight championship, when he added that championship to his collection, it felt like the beginning of the end. Because the last 4 years of Kostya Tszyzu's career, he only fought like 4 times, and more likely pretty much because of injuries. And if you look at 2003, he fought Jesse James Leha in I believe January 2003, and his next fight wasn't even until the next year, till the end of the next year, which was like more than 20 months later. And really I think the fight pretty much was postponed because of injuries, and Kostya Tszyzu, I guess, was fighting with injuries and whatnot, and really with the constant rustle and bustle and wear and tear of his body, he really didn't recover, because he was fighting earlier in his career. He was fighting multiple times out of the year and fighting tough opponents and fighting some tough fights. So really he wasn't giving himself a chance to heal. When he hit his 30s, I guess it was kind of a different story. Early 30s, he was still able to fight multiple times out of the year, but when he got older, when he hit 33, he just couldn't do it anymore. He couldn't fight multiple times out of the year. He was getting hurt, and like I said, it pretty much tore his body apart. And now, about 5 years later, he's 40 years old, and he's considering a comeback. And really, with a lot of fighters, me personally, I think that if you're a fighter and you retire, you might as well stay retired. Especially someone of the same stature of a Kostya Tszyzu. And really, Kostya Tszyzu, who has great boxing ability and great boxing skill. Really, I really wouldn't want Kostya Tszyzu to come back. And really, I'm weighing it from both sides. Me as a fan, if you look on my page, I have a picture of Tszyzu on my layout, Kostya Tszyzu on my layout, and I'm looking at it from a fan's perspective. But at the same time, I'm analyzing it as well. I'd love to see Kostya Tszyzu come back, but fighting a Floyd Mayweather, Sugar Shane Mosley, or Manny Pacquiao right away, that'd be horrendous for him. Because when years pass by, you lose your speed, you lose your timing, you lose those reflexes. And Muhammad Ali, who was still young in 1970 or 71 when he came back, he didn't have that speed that he once had in the ring. And though Kostya Tszyzu is said to have been training, continuing to train for the last few years, he hasn't been in the ring. He hasn't been in the ring fighting. And it's different if you're just normally training or sparring, rather than getting in the ring and fighting in front of 20, 30,000 people. And it's a different thing. And Kostya Tszyzu, I really think if Kostya Tszyzu wants to come back, he definitely has to fight one or two fights to see if he really wants to do this again. Fight a couple, maybe 10 rounders, and then make that decision on whether or not he wants to come back. Because Kostya Tszyzu, if he straight up came back and fought a Floyd Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao or Shane Mosley or even Andre Berto, he'd have trouble, because, as I said, you lose, like when you haven't been in the ring, and as you get older, you lose a lot of those reflexes, and you lose a lot of that agility. And him being 40 years old, doesn't help as well. And though there are fighters at 40 years old that have won championships, 40, 45, whatever, we have fighters at the age of 40 who've won championships, or came back from retirement and won championships. But think about it. The division that Kostya Tszyzu ruled for numerous years, the light welterweight division, is now talent rich. So it's going to be hard to break inside or break into that division, into such a talent rich division. The welterweight division, another talent rich division that has a lot of money in it. You have three very good established champions. You have a young guy coming up in Andre Berto, and other than that, you have some really good contenders to go along with it. So Kostya Tszyzu would probably have to do a little more. It wouldn't be as hard to break into that division, but at the same time, Kostya Tszyzu represents a name. But the question is, can he still make that 147 pounds? He was making 140. He did stay in shape. I have no doubt in my mind that he more than likely could make 147. But really, if you ask me, the division to try to break into would maybe be the light middleweight division, because you have some good prospects. You have really good prospects, Omar Henry and Sean Porter. You have a couple good contenders, Kermit Cintron and Paul Williams. You have some decent champions. You got Corey Spinks. That Sergio Martinez more than likely is dropping that WBC crown, which is going to leave the door open for somebody to break in and take that top spot. So I do think that if he wants to come back, the light middleweight division is a division to look into. And at the same time, with Kostya Tszyzu, if he comes back into that light middleweight division, then more than likely you're going to have someone like a Shane Mosley or Floyd Mayweather or even possibly Manny Pacquiao coming up in weight, and it brings more money to that division and brings more intrigue. And really, and on top of that, we have a main star, a main boxing attraction in Miguel Cotto moving up to 154. And he's trying, and really with him, he's trying to get his passion for the sport back. So there's quite a bit of money in the division, but there's good fights as well. Yuri Foreman, Miguel Cotto, Paul Williams, Kermit Cintron. And along with the people coming up, you got, even though I could say Sergey Zinzurek, I believe is how you pronounce it. He's a really good fighter. You got Alfredo Angulo. You have Yoel Julio. You have a lot of fighters. Even I can mention James Kirkland if he can get out of jail, soon or whatever. But really, Kostya Tszyzu coming back, you have to look at it from two different perspectives, really. A fan and as an analyst, or analyzing the situation. And I think that if he really sincerely wants to come back into the sport of boxing, he doesn't want to come back into the welterweight division, because it's going to take quite some time to move up in that division. By the time he's up and he's a top contender, possibly, then some of those guys are going to be moving up, more than likely, and go on to another division. Then he would have to move up. So it's better that he goes to light middleweight and fights there if he comes back. Would I like to see it? I'd like to see it, but I wouldn't like to see it at the same time. I do think that he's already established and he already has his legacy, but if he had the heart and the passion to come back in the sport, then come back into the sport. It's that simple. But anyway, that was The Distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.